Hello, Samadan here, and another fantastic week of gold making. It's been another one of investments. We've been getting some professions sorted out, like inscription and engineering. Those are both near max, if not max themselves. So I've pretty much got all professions almost at maximum now, and I'm starting to see some returns in some professions. Obviously, this week we have the Mythic Castle Nathria has started, so there's a whole fun with the Race to World First. Lots of people watching that. I've been watching myself, and it's been really nice to see. And in turn, you see a lot of people on the auction house maybe selling things to Mythic Raiders, or the other thing, which is people who are doing their Mythic Pluses and going through things like Torghast or whatever, and doing the harder PvP content and all that kind of things. We're selling enchants, alchemy, and cooking. Now, for me personally, I found alchemy and cooking to be highly competitive. So I've not had many sales on that front, but enchanting has really kicked off this week. I've had a whole load of sales in that. I'll go through the mailbox and things that have been selling well for me, and maybe suggest a few things that might be selling well for you on your server and things you could do with professions this week. But overall, I've been having a lot of fun still in Shadowlands. It's been absolute blast. I went through... I didn't do very well in Torghast. I was doing a level 2 as a discipline priest and got to the end boss, and I failed on that one despite numerous attempts. But we did it the next day with a group, and it was so much easier as a holy priest. I know that's all been changed and tuned again, so it's probably even harder now. So Torghast is fun. It's a nice side thing to do, and to get myself some soul ash so that I can actually make my own legendaries, which should be quite nice. I don't really need it for professions and gold making. The other thing I do really need, though, is Venari rep. So I have to go into the mall quite often to be able to start building that up. I know some people have probably already got enough rep to get to Cordial. I'm still a long ways off of that. I'm only the equivalent of Honoured or something, I think. There's more to do on that front in terms of getting my Crafter's Mark too, especially on tailoring and enchanting. I still need to do the same thing with blacksmithing, jewel crafting, and leatherworking as well, so that I can start selling that Crafter's Mark 2 base items that you can do. So what else has been happening in the world of gold making? Let's go have a look at the mailboxes. I'll swap over to the regular scene and have a look at the mailboxes here. So here we have Samadan's mailbox. This is only the past couple of days. I've been opening the mail throughout the week because I need the capital. You can see here I'm at 488,000 gold, which is pretty similar to what I was at last week. But obviously we've been spending some money on getting professions sorted and investing into various things. You can see here I've had a fair number of sales on deep sea bags. The heavy callous hide, enchanted heavy callous hide, 14 of those, 58,000. That's quite a nice one. I got another 20,000 up here. Only if the profit margins are good. You really have to look at your callous hide, your heavy callous hide, and then the enchanted heavy callous hide, and compare all three of them, and only craft them when there's really going to be a profit for you. For me, I think there was about a 500 gold profit per callous hide on these. So it's a bit strange with these, because these and the enchants, they look really good in the mailbox because it's high numbers, but you've got to think about your profit margin. So another 95,000 gold is great, absolutely. But I need to take into account the fact that I bought a lot of heavy callous hide, or sometimes callous hide, and then converted it to heavy on my leatherworker. So that was obviously just what's been happening this past couple of days. If I look at my mailbox earlier in the week, I've got a few different bits in here. We've got some Sinful Revelation, which again looks really big in the mailbox, 66,000 for 4 of them. There's about a 1,000 to 2,000 gold profit on each of those. The main thing here, the same as the callous hide, is looking at the price of eternal crystals and following them down. So I'll make maybe 1 or 2, as much as 4 if I'm feeling lucky, of the Sinful Revelation, which is probably the best one that's selling for me at the moment. And looking at the price of the eternal crystals, timesing that by 2, and then looking at the price of the Sinful Revelation, for me it's going for about 14 to 17,000 gold on my server. But then the eternal crystals are like 5 to 6,000 gold. So if I can make 1 to 2,000 gold off of those, that's definitely worth doing. So I've had a few good sales there over the past. There's another couple down here at 33,000, and further down in this mailbox of 191,000 from earlier in the week, we've also got some Lightless Force there and some Tomes of Illusions. Those have been selling quite well this week, so don't forget those. Also bags of every kind. We've got netherweave bags, we've got some shrouded cloth bags here. In the previous one we had a mageweave bag, and otherworldly bag. I like to pretty much stock every single bag in the game if I can, because you never know, you do get some sales. So overall, enchants, as you can see, have been doing very well this week. So if you have got your enchanting maxed out, have a look at what's profitable for you. For me, when I look at my enchanting, you can see here, based on my material prices, it is hit and miss. The bracer enchants, maybe I might get a bit from here. The Eternals and things are all negative profit here. Occasionally might get a small profit on the Fortified Leech and Fortified Speed. A nice steady seller is the Shadowlands Gathering. And then depending on what's profitable, I'll make any one of these. If they are profitable, I have to look at my prices though, not rely on TSM figures here. So it's one to watch out for. And the rings are completely under market value at the moment, so those are no good to me either. The ones that can be good though are the Sinful Revelation and occasionally Lightless Force, showing here a small negative profit here at the moment, but we do occasionally get some sales where it is a profit. And Celestial Guidance is quite a good one as well. That's worth selling from time to time, having a few stock of those on. So Enchanting, even though it doesn't look that great here, it is a steady seller for me, as you can see on the mailboxes. If I look at another mailbox from earlier in the week, I've got 130,000 in this one. We had a bit of food sales here, which was quite nice. Tenebrous Crown Roast Aspic. Again, looking at the price of the materials going into these, food is starting to sell quite well, but it's quite a competitive market, and you need to really look at your prices of your materials going into it. The meat and all the fish going into this, they've almost doubled in price recently. So sometimes it takes a while for the actual resulting craft to follow suit and go up in price. And I've found that with the cooking, there's been occasional sales there, so that's been quite good. If you can get them, it's been great. It's quite competitive on my server though. It's very easy to level cooking. So one to watch out for. But then diversity is good, so always recommend that. There's a few other bits and pieces here, flying carpet and things like that. So overall, we've been doing okay on enchanting, and then throwing in a bit of tailoring and cooking on top of that. So I'll go through and look at my other characters, because they've all got professions now. So we can have a look at every single profession and see how it's been doing. Of course, this is only representative of what's happening for me on my server. Other people will have lots of different results, which is great to see. And if you do have other results, please do let me know in the comments below. But what I'm going to look at here is just see what's been selling and see how the professions fare at the moment here on Shadowsong. So looking at my Alchemist here, you can see we've had a few sales of both BFA flasks and the new ones like Phantom Fire and the Spectral Flask of Power. So I have been getting some sales of both the new and the BFA stuff, the Shadow Core Oil and the Embalmer's Oil as well, if it's profitable for you. So there's a decent amount of things you can do here. It's fairly competitive as far as the profession goes. I've certainly found that. So it really pays to wait until sort of raid times, or when people are in the evening and doing their Mythic Pluses. That's when you can get the most sales, and then look for buying the herbs when they're particularly cheap, sometimes at the weekend, sometimes on a Monday or Tuesday. And so buy your herbs cheap so that you can sell things for a profit later on in the evening. So I've got another 51,000 here, and then I've got a few sales from earlier in the week. We've got some Spiritual Mana Potion, Flask of Power Healing Potions, some more oil, and then another few flasks of power and a flask of currents here, so another 21,000 there. So Alchemy's doing okay, but the profits aren't huge at the moment, and the volume isn't really high enough here. You can see here Goldmaking only has actually 7,500 gold, so I'm having to invest a fair amount of gold into potions to then get a return like this. So at least now we can have another 50,000 to go in here, and then I'll buy a whole load more herbs, see if I can get my average price down, and then rinse and repeat. So I'll take all of those. Now, this was a new one for me, Inscription. I've leveled it up to 89 at the moment. As you can see here, the missives I can still skill up on a little bit more, but are currently showing me a negative profit. This is based on my milling rates of the cheapest herb at the moment. I did a rough calculation at the moment. I'd like to go through and do some proper calculations. Each of the herbs give you a different rate of the different inks, the Tranquil Luminous and Umbral, or rather the pigments that then turn into inks. So getting a price on those is kind of important for your missives if you're going to get any sales. I've had a lot of competition on these, and again you can see my pricing isn't quite competitive enough here. Haven't really looked at the Dark Moon cards yet. Not sure whether those markets have been and gone now, but I'll see. And then I've got a couple of the staves that, well, I did have, I think it was 1 or 2 sales of missives. Let's have a look. Yes, I've got 1 missive of mastery at the moment, so I can take that at least. And then earlier in the week I did get a couple of missives of versatility, critical strike. I did actually sell a Soulkeeper's column as well, 5,000 there, and another one of versatility. So a little bit of gold here. I've still got a buffer here, about 98,000 on this character, so it's quite competitive. I'm a bit sad really, because I would have liked the missives to be cheaper, because then you could use them quite easily on all of the base armor that the other professions can do. And that way you can start tailoring some items specific to certain classes that need certain stats, and you can put those on the auction house specifically for them and price them accordingly. But with the price of missives being quite high, it's not really cost effective to do that. And so therefore you end up just randomly making the base items and hoping for the best. But in terms of people with their legendaries, the missive market still is there. It's just a question of seeing how you can capitalise on the people who want the missives and being able to sell them at a decent enough volume. For me at the moment, it's kind of trickling through. There's not a lot of variety in my inscription at the moment. Ideally, as a profession, I'd really like to have all of the glyphs from past expansions as well, just to fill that out, get into maybe the Darkmoon decks a little bit more, see if there's any gold to be made there. But at least I've leveled it up to at least sort of almost maximum at the moment. Once I get a good price string for the milling rates, then I'll be able to get a better handle on what kind of profits I can make. And I'll share that with you all, of course, once I've got something to show. So, leatherworking. Now, this one I've almost maxed out again, 96 here. Been making a few Desolate armor kits. I don't have the reputation to make the heavy Desolate armor kits, because that would be useful if you have that. I have been looking on the auction house, so I do a search. So I do a search for Callous quite often, and then I'll have a look at Callous hide, look at that, compare that with the price of heavy Callous hide, and you say, okay, 177 of that times that by 10 should be the price of the heavy Callous hide. You can see here it's been bumped up incredibly high at the moment. And then Enchanted heavy Callous hide is even more expensive now at the moment. Someone's done a big reset on these. The Callous hide, there's not a huge amount of it at the moment. It really is a skinner's playground right now. So if you do want to make some gold, I would suggest get your skinner, go out there and try and get yourself some Callous hide. On my server particularly, the demand is really high. And you can see people are resetting the markets, and they are selling at this price. There's a few here at 177 trying to get the price down. I would be tempted to actually just buy those myself right now, because those will be useful. I can turn those into heavy Callous hide if I have 10 of them. I do have about 63 of them, so I don't have a huge stock myself. So this is interesting. You need to follow each of these 3, and the same with the ore for blacksmithing, and the same with lightless silk with tailoring, and then have your enchanter make the enchanted versions if it's a good profit. Here obviously would be a decent one, so even at 236 it's worth buying out here. Times that by 10, you could still make a profit at 3,000, and then times that by 2 and you can make an even bigger profit here. Whether these actually sell at this price, it's higher than I normally sell them for. My average sale price there for heavy Callous hide is 2,800 and enchanted heavy Callous hide is 4,300, so this is definitely a lot higher. But there are literally only 62 enchanted heavy Callous hides on my server, so this is interesting. This is where you could possibly make some gold. But at the moment, let's have a look. We've got a few bits of base items that I've been selling quite well. Desolate Scale, Shadebound, Shadow Scale. So the kind of like the base stuff for fresh level 50s and the base stuff for fresh level 60s. So that's selling quite well. I've got 12,000 here. Got to watch out for the deposit fees on these. Deposit fees are quite high. If we look at a previous mailbox here, I've got 29,000 from this week, a whole load more of Desolate and Shadow Scale and Shadebound gear here. So it has been selling in sort of like a slow and steady amount at reasonable prices. Sometimes it's really cheap, like 84 gold and 64 gold. Once you take into the auction house cut and the cost to craft this is not very profitable, if at all. So it's something to watch out for, but then I like to think I make up for it with the things that are a little bit higher here, the Shadebound and the shadow scale items, but I like to offer a full service here. One thing that was suggested to me by one of the viewers, Commander Bond, which was really good, thank you for this one, is to make sure that you get your novice crafters marks and apply those to some of the items that you can't put on at a fresh level 50. So some items, some of the Desolate Leather stuff would be quite useful to have downgraded so that a level 50 can wear it. And you can get a few good sales that way. I'll be trying that next week myself, definitely. But overall, yeah, we've got 11,000 here. Let's get this 12,000 here and double our gold. So we've at least got that now. So let's look at blacksmithing. Now, I've only got it up to 68 here. And interestingly enough, for some of the blacksmithing, you do actually need reputation for some of the items. Like the Shadow Steel Helm, that needs the Ascended Honoured. And the Shadow Steel Pauldrons need the Undying Army Honoured. Now, the other armour professions don't need reputation for these kind of armour, so it's interesting that blacksmithing at least requires you to have these. Then these ones just need my skill level to be a little bit higher, so I can start making those. So I'm kind of almost there with blacksmithing. Some things are still a profit. The ceremonious stuff, again, downgrade some of this if you want to get some sales for a fresh 50, or sell it as it is as well. I've been having sales with both of those. And then of course you've got all the weapons you can sell. Now again, same with leatherworking, watch out for the deposit fees on these. They can be quite expensive. And then the weight stones, again, the shaded and the shaded sharpening stones, are doing quite well as steady gold makers for part of this profession. At the moment we're doing okay. We've got a few sales in here. We've got Shadowgast ingots selling, a few weapons, claymore, mace there, warglaives. Not huge prices, but they are giving me a profit there. And then a bit more of the shadow steel arm guards and things like that. And again, from earlier in the week, we've got another 56,000 we had from the... This was interesting. Inflatable mount shoes were going for an incredible price on my server. 9,000 there for one and 35,000 there for two. So I'm not sure what was going on there, but I definitely was lucky in getting some sales there. Got 4 sales over that, so that's most of that gold there. But other than that, sharpening stones, weight stones, those have all been selling okay. So blacksmithing's doing okay at the moment. Again, remember, I've got neither my leatherworker nor my blacksmith up to the legendary base item crafting ability yet. So neither of them are level 60. They still need to get to that. They still need to do the whole runs and things through that. So there's more potential there if you want to get into those markets over time as well. But in terms of just getting the profession going, it's still entirely possible to do it at the level 51 and just go through and level up your profession to as high as you can reasonably get it and still start making a profit. So both leatherworking and blacksmithing have been ticking through. Got to just keep an eye on the profit margins really more than anything else. But as long as I get consistent sales throughout the week, I'm happy. Now, Bridget, my last character, she has jewel crafting, which you can see there's a lot of stuff that's in negative profit here. But we do have some things in profit for the necklaces and rings if you can get some reasonable sales from those. So those are quite good if I can just keep a good stock of each of those. And then engineering, I've also maxed out. I was a little bit disappointed with engineering, to be honest. There's a lot of stuff that's only really usable by engineers. But there are maybe a couple of things here that I might be able to get some sales on. What I would have liked to have seen is these scopes. They're not readily searchable on the auction house for hunters, and they would have been quite nice as recommended enhancements for their guns or bows or crossbows. So I would have liked to have seen those markets go through, but there's not been a huge amount of stuff here. Really, to be honest, the most thing I've been making here is Goblin Glider kits. Everyone seems to want a Goblin Glider kit, so I've been going through and making sure that those are always stocked on. So in terms of mailboxes, we've got some reasonable stuff here. We've sold another jeweled Onyx Panther there, so 98,000 gold has taken up a huge amount of that. Gold reserves coming out. I'll have to obviously spend some more gold now to make myself another one. I only have one on at a time. And then you can see here glider kits, selling those quite consistently. And then a few of the jewel crafting ones have been coming through. Leviathan's Eye of Intellect sells quite a lot, so I've been having steady sales of that. And then the new things like the Masterful Phaedrum Ring, the Quix Oxine Ring. I'm making sure that I've just got a bit of all the rings and the necklaces all on the auction house as long as it's a profit. And that's been getting me a steady amount of gold as well. And again here from earlier in the week, 11,000 from Goblin Glider kits, and a few different rings and necklaces, both BFA and Shadowlands level. So you can see here professions are starting to come through. They're starting to make a bit of gold, which is really nice. I've had to invest a lot of gold to get them to this state, to have practically every profession almost at maximum. I've still got all the gathering professions. If you really want to make some gold, go out and gather still. It's very profitable, especially skinning. If you can get some Callous hide on your server, go out there, go skin, go do fishing, go and do herbalism and mining. And if that's your way to make gold, it's really good right now still, especially on my server. But overall, for the week, we're up to 759,000 gold. Let's have a look at our TSM graph and how that actually looks. We've got a bit of an upturn here, which is nice. Let's go to the last month here. So this is the start of Shadowlands release. I was here up at 1.7 million and I've been investing, buying a few tokens and getting all my professions sorted out. Only now are we starting to see things actually go up rather than down, which is really nice. So looking at the last week, we had here 552,000. Again, got dual crafting and engineering all maxed out in inscription. And then we've started to make some sales here. So we're actually coming up here. We're going to have to invest some of this still. So we might be up here at the moment, but we're going to have to invest a little bit more. And then hopefully over time, we can see this graph actually go back up to where it was, at least here at 1.7 million would be really nice. If I can get that back up to where it was over here at 4 million, that would be really nice as well. Eventually, obviously, this would be really nice to get up to gold cap level, but that's a journey I'm happy to take my time on. So overall, a promising week. You can see the investment into professions is starting to pay off. I've not gone all in really quickly, so might have missed out on those early sales that a lot of people might have had. But I've also been able to level up every profession and get myself in a good position now to at least diversify in all the markets on my server. So obviously with the player activity at the moment still being really high, we've got the holiday season coming up, Winter Veil has just started, so lots of people will be relaxing and playing WoW and wanting to buy things on the auction house, and that's where we come in and we can start selling things. Now, as I want to make this a weekly series, so if you do have any questions for things like TSM or general gold making questions, please put them in the comments and then I'll answer those questions in the next week's episode. Obviously, we've got Christmas coming up, so there may be one or two that we might have to miss during that time. But then after that, going forward, we'll do this as a weekly gold making recap and learning what's happening with the professions and other gold making methods as well. And I'll share what I learn that week with you all, and then hopefully we can all make some gold together. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I've got lots of profession videos coming up, so I'll be going through every single profession, how I leveled them and what I'm making gold with those specifically. And then of course I'm sharing all my groups and operations over on my Patreon as well. So until next time, happy gold making, and I'll see you very soon.